We're still learning about the full extent of Justin Fields' shoulder injury, but the decision on what the Chicago Bears should do with their injured quarterback isn't as straightforward as you might think.
You are Locked On Bears, your daily Chicago Bears podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Bears, and I'm your host, Lorin Cox. I'm here to bring you your daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. You can follow me on Twitter at CoxSports1. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Bears. You can like Locked On Bears on Facebook. Join the Locked On Bears Facebook group for even more Bears talk. And make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Locked On Bears YouTube channel to keep up with all of our video podcasts as well. Thanks for making the Locked On Bears podcast your first listen today and hopefully every single day. Today's episode is presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their PrizePicks projections, you can win up to 10 times your money. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with our promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. On the show today, we dive into the Justin Fields injury situation, not so much the medical side. I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor either, but well, I guess you might be. But more so what the Chicago Bears need to do with their quarterback, how they should handle the different dynamics at play here as far as possibility of aiding in the tank for a better draft pick versus Justin Fields' long-term health and prioritizing, making sure that he's healthy and good to go for next season, but also his development and what's best for him to grow as a quarterback. And that's where I think you have to start is that dynamic right there. That yes, the draft pick and the win-loss record is important, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But first and foremost, right, the decision is first a medical decision. And of course, if the doctors say, yeah, he shouldn't play anymore this season, then of course you don't play him this season. I know that it's sort of obvious, but I want to make sure that as we talk about that's clear, right? Like, of course, if there's any sort of major risk of worsening the injury or re-injuring it in some way that's going to be particularly damaging to Justin Fields' health beyond this season, that's not something worth messing around with at all. You don't have anything major to play for this season, and whatever's going to protect Justin Fields' health in that way should become priority number one. But if it's become something that, okay, he can play through it, and, they're going to have to put some kind of, I'm sure, like shoulder sling or whatever. Like we saw Mitch Trubisky play through something like that with one of those like kind of braces on underneath his jersey and stuff. Then it becomes a different question of like, okay, there's not this huge risk of necessarily worsening the injury. It's just a lot of pain for him or whatever it might be. Should they play him then or should they not? Or how long should they wait? Should they shut him down for the rest of the season? Or should they give it a few games and let it get a little bit better and then bring him back, after the bye week or, for Green Bay or whatever the timeline might be? Because I think for Justin Fields' development, there is some real value to having him on the field. It's one of the things we've talked about with his growth as a quarterback, that especially when it comes to something like pocket presence and feeling out the pass rush, that's something he struggled with last season and in the early stages of this season, and is still has room to get better at. But it also seems to me as one of those things that you have to be in a live game situation to truly replicate it. You can't fully practice a pocket collapsing situation, because in practice, they can't hit you. The pass rushers are not allowed to hit the quarterback. There's not real sacks. It's it's a safe environment. It's like too safe in that regard. It's not the same live feel of the bullets flying and an opponent across from you. Not only real pass rushers, but also, a real opponent in coverage on the back end and real game situations, real live instantaneous decisions that you have to make about what to do with your feet and your legs and your body and your arm as a quarterback. And so I think for Justin Fields' development, the best thing for him to improve as a quarterback is to keep playing. Again, caveated by the idea that, no, it would not be better if there's a re-injury risk. But assuming the injury is manageable and not a massive risk, for his development, he needs to keep passing. He does not need to keep running. And that's, I think, the distinction that needs to be made here, is that, like, Justin Fields needs to keep, in order to, I think, maximize his potential, that when healthy and not at a risk of injury or re-injury or worsening injury, he needs to be throwing the ball. He needs those reps of passing it to Chase Claypool, getting used to Chase Claypool, passing it to all these different receivers, operating this Bears passing offense. He doesn't need, in terms of quarterback development, the reps of running the ball. Running the ball as Justin Fields helps the Bears win football games. It helps the offense move. But I don't think he's developing as a rusher, right? That's not necessarily growing him as a quarterback. Like, it's stuff we already know he can do and he is very good at, and it's an important part of what he does as a quarterback. But I don't think that's purely quarterback development in the same way that sitting in there and dropping back to pass is. And it's, I think the way for him to work through that is to keep throwing and to make mistakes along the way. That's what a lot of this season has given him some freedom and flexibility to do, is make some mistakes and learn from them, like the pick six against the Detroit Lions and trying to make a screen pass happen that just wasn't there. Like, that's something that he can just keep working through. He can make those mistakes in a season where you're not pushing for the playoffs, and it's not going to really matter if you lose, even if it sucks and you don't like to feel that way. You don't like to experience a loss. You don't like to watch the loss. You don't like to be in the loss, but it doesn't really have an otherwise substantive impact on the season. The other question I have here, though, is it being a left shoulder injury, is not his throwing shoulder, which in theory should allow him to throw, but does the pain and whatever discomfort from whatever they're going to call the shoulder injury, does that affect his ability to throw? Because I don't want him, even if there's not an injury risk or a worsening injury risk, if the left shoulder pain or injury is affecting his right shoulder and his ability to throw with the proper mechanics that he's working on developing, then, is he building bad habits and sort of unevening his muscle memory there by throwing in this different way to adapt to the shoulder injury? That's not going to be how he throws without the shoulder injury. That's another situation where I would consider shutting Fields down, even if he's good enough to play, but the shoulder would still affect his normal throwing operation. I don't want him throwing in a different way now with the shoulder injury, and that's going to be one of, I think, the bigger hurdles to overcome here from a health standpoint. But there is a bigger question, and you're seeing it around Chicago Bears fan circles about, tanking. To tank or not to tank? Do you sit down Fields as a good excuse to lose some more games and get an even better draft pick? We'll kind of look at some of the different dynamics that might go into that over the remaining games of this season next on Locked On Bears. The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by our friends at Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. They've got a huge selection of vehicles for just about every occasion or budget across the United States, for our listeners over in the United Kingdom, up in Canada, and coming soon to Australia as well. Turo going worldwide. You can book a spacious SUV or minivan if you got that family road trip. If you want to try out a classic or a luxury car for a special event or a holiday, something to celebrate, that's always fun with Turo. You can find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from point A to point B, or you want to test drive that new car you've had your eye on, but you want to see how it fits in your daily life. Turo has it for you. Many Turo hosts can even deliver their car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance as well. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive with Turo. The Locked On Bears podcast also brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks, the better way to do daily fantasy sports, because PrizePicks puts you in complete control. Unlike other options for daily fantasy, there's no competing against other players. In those other daily fantasy, your winning depends on what other people's lineups are and how their lineup does compared to your lineup. With PrizePicks, it's just you versus the projections available. You pick 2 to 5 players, and if they'll score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, and you can win up to 10 times your money back on any entry, not just for Bears games, but across all of sports. They have PrizePicks projections available for more sports than you can come up with off the top of your head. And it's super easy to make your entry, just literally 60 seconds or less. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% dollar-for-dollar instant deposit match up to $100 with our promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Just don't forget to enter that promo code LOCKEDON at sign-up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Very few fans are going to actively cheer for the tank. You never want to go in watching and hoping for your team to lose. But I think there is a significant portion of the fan base that can recognize the value in tanking, the value in having these games end in losses and improving the draft pick that you get for your Chicago Bears. In part because it's not just the one draft pick, right? It's the pick in every round. I guess this year, because they traded their second round pick for Chase Claypool, their losing will not change where their second round pick is located because that's the Baltimore Ravens pick. So you can certainly root for the Baltimore Ravens to lose, but every game the Bears lose can move them up in the first, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh rounds. That's 6 draft picks making a change every time you lose, or the more you lose, moving those picks up and down the board. And so you can see why, or see how, this Justin Fields injury might be an incentive to say, you know what, maybe he could play through the injury, but let's shut him down. Let's not worry about any of that. Let's just pack it in with him. Say 2023, we've seen good development from you, Fields. Things are coming together. We've got the proof of concept with this year with how the offense is performing. Your offensive line is not helping you right now. Your wide receivers are not helping you very much right now. And running game has been a lot of Justin Fields lately, especially with Khalil Herbert's injury. Oh, and the defense is not helping you right now. So let's not get this kid killed further. Let's shut him down, and let's get an even better draft pick as a result of it. You can see some of the logic there, because certainly when you put in Trevor Siemian, you have an even lower chance to win than what we've already seen with the Bears right now with Justin Fields. I think it's pretty clear and obvious to most discerning Chicago Bears fans that Justin Fields is actively helping these teams get closer and closer to winning games and is carrying a large portion of the load that has gotten this team as close as they have gotten, even in their recent losses. And that, of course, putting in Trevor Siemian will result in more losses than what you would have with Justin Fields in the game. Obviously, I don't think it's going to make a huge difference whether it's Fields or Siemian against teams like the Philadelphia Eagles and the Buffalo Bills coming up after that bye week. But some of these other games that are a little bit more coin toss. We've seen the Jets last week gained 2 yards in the second half. The Bears are underdogs in that game, but you certainly think Justin Fields would give you a better chance to beat the Jets, win healthy, than Trevor Siemian. Same with the struggling Green Bay Packers team after that, and the Lions in Week 17. Those are the kind of games that you feel like Justin Fields gives you a fighting chance to win, and Trevor Siemian, not to say that he can't win those games, but you don't get the feeling from Trevor Siemian that he's going to carry this team the way Justin Fields has and is going to go down and win you some of those football games. Not that you're going to lose out every single game the rest of the season with Siemian necessarily. I suppose it's possible, but it's still, it's pretty clear here that Siemian would equal more losses than Fields if Fields is healthy. We also know that in the Bears front office, Ian Cunningham comes over from the Philadelphia Eagles, where a couple of seasons ago, they seemed to fairly clearly pack it in and throw in the towel for the last game of their season, choose to sort of tank that one game, and got a meaningfully better draft pick as a result that set up some of the things that they got to now and are, not that one lost game has resulted in the good team we see today, but it helped. And it was a front office that was willing to do that. And does Cunningham bring a little bit of that to the Chicago Bears? Now, on the other side of the spectrum here, they're already right now, if the season ended today, the Bears would have the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. They're tied with a couple other teams, but tiebreakers would give the Bears the 3rd overall pick in the NFL draft. That's with Justin Fields under center. And so, presumably, given the schedule that you have on there, like you mentioned, Fields probably not going to beat the Eagles or the Bills. The Vikings in Week 18 may have secured a playoff spot, so that might be different. But the Bears are not going to win so many games with Fields that's going to take them, out of the top 5 and certainly not out of the top 10. And so, how much of a big difference does it make? I mean, yes, it will make a difference, but even from where you're picking, right? How big of a difference is picking number 2 versus number 3, number 4? number 5. Certainly there's a big difference between 3 where they are now and 10 or 12. Absolutely. There's a massive difference. And there certainly is a difference between 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I mean, both literally and figuratively in the way we're talking about it here. But, how big of a difference is it? Because I think the Bears go into this draft with pretty open draft philosophy, right? They're not going to take a quarterback in the first round. But almost every other position is probably open for debate, right? They could easily draft a blue chip offensive lineman, a blue chip defensive lineman, a blue chip linebacker, a blue chip wide receiver. Probably not a running back or a tight end, but you know what I mean? Maybe even a blue chip cornerback. If there's a really good can't miss prospect, they're probably not a safety either. But so, if there's a good wide receiver and a good offensive lineman, and a good a good pass rusher all sitting there, whether you're picking 2, 3, or 4, or even 5, you're probably going to get one of those 3 to fall to you because quarterbacks are going to go in the top 5, at least one. I mean, it's become expected at this point that you're going to see a team at the very least trade up. And that's another option for the Bears to be able to trade down. And the higher you are, the more you can get from trading down. So that's certainly part of this equation. But, if you can't get the guy at 2, there's still going to be a really good guy there at 3 or a really good guy there at 4. So how much value are you going to gain by tanking as opposed to our experience of watching some of these football games? It certainly is a good excuse to tank. And, you need to have a good reason like this to lose games. You can't just be blatant about it. You're not going to see the Bears bench Cody Whitehair to play one of the rookie offensive linemen or bench Eddie Jackson to get the 7th round safety Elijah Hicks out there. But maybe if Fields is already going to be out, could you see them force more Velus Jones at wide receiver? Because, just give him the reps, even if he's going to make mistakes, because you're not winning games with Simeon anyway. But it's not like an obvious worsening of your offense. It's playing the young guys. Maybe more Treston Ebner at running back, even though he hasn't looked particularly good. Maybe it's getting Alex Leatherwood in on the offensive line and saying, hey, we think he gives us a better chance than Riley Reif at right tackle right now. Sure, those are the types of moves you can start to get away with that are a little bit more tank-like, a little less focused on winning, but more on young player development. But you're not going to see the blatant types of moves because the team, you can't really show the team that you're tanking. You can't actually give up with as many games as they have left. It's too important for the culture to blatantly tank, but you could still get away with contributing towards tanking by sitting down Justin Fields for precautions and getting more of those younger players involved. I don't think that's the case for what Eberflus is going to want to do, and I think they will genuinely play it with doing what's best to win and juggling Justin Fields' health and not just saying, screw it, we're sitting him because it'll help us lose games. But we'll see. It'll depend on the severity of the injury, I think, more so than anything else. That moves us into potential Trevor Siemian territory, and then your next backup quarterback is Nathan Peterman. And I don't know, it just doesn't feel like Trevor Siemian is a meaningful, fun, or worthwhile backup for the Bears to be rolling here. And we'll kind of look at this quarterback situation perhaps without Justin Fields due to injury next on Locked On Bears. The Locked On Bears podcast is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline, the number one place we recommend for all of your sports betting needs. Right now, the line for Bears Jets at BetOnline is Bears +4 on the road. Essentially, Jets are just a slight home favorite as a result there, but I'm sure whatever Justin Fields news comes out in either direction on this injury, it's going to change that betting line. So if you want to lock in your bets now, you got to hurry up and head on over to betonline.net for all of your sports betting needs, not only for Bears games, but across sports with the World Cup going on right now, as you can see, plus, basketball season underway, hockey as well, and plus esports and more, all of that at BetOnline. That's the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head on over to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about all the different trends and action you need to know. BetOnline, where the game starts. If Justin Fields is getting shut down for a little while, Bears are going to be starting Trevor Siemian. And I don't know about you, but I'm not excited. I mean, no one's going to be excited about backup quarterbacks in general, but Trevor Siemian in particular just doesn't really do much for me. I get, Northwestern kid. He's not from Illinois originally, but, local sort of college guy that a lot of Bears fans share that sort of fandom, and it'll be cool to see a quarterback you're perhaps more familiar with. And I don't think Trevor Siemian is like a terrible backup quarterback by any means. He's definitely a guy that you can put him in there, and if you have a really good supporting cast, he can game manage you to some victories, maybe, against bad teams. But that is neither the supporting cast the Bears have right now, nor really the situation. Like, the Bears don't need Trevor Siemian to win them games, right? That's what this kind of comes down to me. And it makes me, I don't know, it just makes me wonder a little bit, like, what value Siemian is truly providing them in this backup quarterback role. Certainly he's more of a veteran than Fields. He's been in the league since like 2015. I think he's had a couple of years not in the league in that span, kind of a practice squad guy sometimes. But he's not like, the exact Justin Fields mold of quarterbacks. He's not, he's no Mike Glennon statuesque in there, but he's also no Justin Fields level of mobility either. And so, like, it's not even a super natural transition of like same offense, same scheme, right? I mean, you're still going to do a lot of the same things in terms of Trevor Siemian will benefit from play action. He'll benefit from moving pockets, but he's not quite the same read option quarterback in that regard, and it's not quite the same style of quarterbacking. And so, like, what are you getting out of playing Trevor Siemian in these games other than just a body who has been in the offense for 10 months now, or I guess since he signed, probably more like 7 or 8 months, but has been in the offense and knows the playbook more than some random quarterback off the street. But other than that, it makes me wonder, why has Trevor Siemian been here in the first place? I get that, like, backup quarterback is not that important for this Bears team, especially, that we've said all along. If there's ever a situation when Trevor Siemian needs to be in the game, the Bears are probably screwed either way, right? I mean, that's because we're seeing it now. If Justin Fields is hurt and Siemian has to play, what happens next really probably doesn't matter all that much for the Bears. But you can't get somebody that would be a better scheme fit there, or maybe have some more upside. I think that's kind of what I come down to, is that, like, Trevor Siemian's about to turn 31 years old. He's not a young guy. We know what he is. He's not going to all of a sudden surprise you and be some star backup in the making that's just been waiting for the right opportunity. And I can't help but wish they were able to do something just a little bit more exciting. Is not the right word, because a backup quarterback is not going to be exciting, but just more unknown, more risk even. Dare I say, get a quarterback that you're not sure what he's going to be and see what he can do. I mean, it's the same thing we talk about with Nathan Peterman, right? He's still on the Bears practice squad. If Fields is on injured reserve or is going to sit some games, they'll probably call Peterman up to be the backup to Trevor Siemian. And it's like, why? What could you possibly be gaining out of having out of having Nathan Peterman as your third string quarterback? We know what Nathan Peterman is. We know he's a bad NFL quarterback. He's not going to come into Chicago all of a sudden and just figure it out of nowhere. Like, all the other opportunities he had, he was horrendous. But all of a sudden this year in this offense with this team, he's going to be really good. It has felt like a waste of a practice squad spot that could go to some undrafted free agent, some rookie, some young player from some other team that you don't know for sure whether he's good or bad. Most likely, a lot of the other young players are going to be bad, but you don't know, and you might as well take a risk on it. Whereas a guy like Nathan Peterman, we kind of do know, right? You look around the NFL on practice squads that you could have instead of Nathan Peterman. It's not a list that gets you like, oh man, the Bears are really missing out on that opportunity. But you see like an undrafted kid like De'Aaron King, or some former late round picks like Jake Browning or Jake Luton that are like, they're probably not going to be very good. But you never know. You never know if you develop them a little bit and you get the right system to fit. They haven't really had a full opportunity to show much of what they can do compared to Nathan Peterman, who has and has not been good. And doesn't provide you like the Justin Fields mold of like continuing the same style of offense. He's just a bad quarterback that's sitting on the practice squad for very little reason. Like, I couldn't even help but wonder, like, guys that might already have more experience in the Packers playbook that Luke Getsy brings that would just have more value as a third stringer or backup. And I think of like Tim Boyle. He's on the Lions practice squad. Probably not a very good quarterback, but can't be worse than Nathan Peterman, and would know this Packers offense and know Luke Getsy from being with him in Green Bay for a couple seasons. Or currently on the Packers practice squad, Danny Etling was with Luke Getsy last year in Green Bay. And who knows, maybe Danny Etling could become something more than what we've seen from him. We haven't really seen much of him. Or a Packers training camp fan favorite, Kirk Benkert, another one of these quarterbacks. He's got some mobility too. Chances are not going to be any better than Nathan Peterman. But we don't know that for sure. And we do know what Nathan Peterman is at this point. And we kind of know what Trevor Siemian is at this point. And not that I would want to start an undrafted rookie free agent in this next game that Fields doesn't play. But, you kind of wonder, right? Can you find lightning in a bottle? Can you find the diamond in the rough? Can you find the idiom of your choice of like an overlooked quarterback that gets the right opportunity in Chicago? Whereas we already know that Peterman and Siemian kind of are what they're going to be at this stage. Not important, not hugely important in the big picture, but if we're going to have to sit through some Justin Fields-less football games, it's going to be miserable. And I would rather have a quarterback that has some upside and some fun rather than game managing of Simeon or heaven forbid, if Nathan Peterman has to come into a game, I'm probably going to turn it off. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't know that I can bring myself to watch Nathan Peterman throw passes in a regular season game with a Chicago Bears jersey on. It's just... I have better things to do with my life than watch that. I'm certainly, whatever happens with this quarterback situation, we're going to break it down for you right here on the Locked On Bears podcast. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to keep up with all of our daily, in-depth Chicago Bears news and analysis. Thanks for making the Locked On Bears podcast your first listen today. If you're looking for your second listen, check out Locked On Sports today, wherever you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. It's going to keep you up to date on all of the biggest stories across sports with some of our local experts breaking it down, the big game recaps, the instant reactions, and so much more. So check out Locked On Sports today to get your daily sports update wherever you get your podcasts. Come on back tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Bears and for another opportunity for you to bear down.